Hello, Peaceful Valley Church. It's been an interesting day today. I just ran up to my seat. We are in the Passover week, and this is an odd season. Usually during this season, we're trying to get together as often as possible, and it's looking like we won't be able to do that this week. So, what do you do during the Passover week when you can't get together like usual? Well, how about if we concentrate on the days of Passover week, or specifically the Passion Week. If you want to turn, there are two stories in here that I want to concentrate on, and they are Mark chapter 13 with the lesson of the fig tree, and what we want to see in the church today. I'm sorry, I said 13. Chapter 11, Mark chapter 11. Day 1, Monday in the Passion Week, Jesus is walking into Jerusalem. They've already had the triumphal entry on Sunday. Monday, they're now walking into the temple area, and Jesus sees a fig tree. And he does something with this fig tree. And from there, they then move into the temple complex, and he does something pretty shocking there. And then he leaves. And what I want us to recognize in this is Jesus was treating them, the fig tree and the temple, Jesus was treating those two things in a certain way based on what they seemed to be promising but weren't fulfilling in their promises. So let's read Mark chapter 11, starting in verse 12. When it says following day, it's the day after he had come into Jerusalem on the triumphal entry. On the following day, when they came from Bethany, he was hungry, and seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to see if he could find anything on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. And he said to it, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard it. Verse 15. And they came to Jerusalem, and he entered the temple and began to drive out those who sold and those who bought in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. And he would not allow anyone to carry anything through the temple. And he was teaching them and saying to them, "Is it not written, 'My house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations'? But you have made it a den of robbers." And the chief priests and scribes heard it and were seeking a way to destroy him, for they feared him, because all the crowd was astonished at his teaching. And when evening came, they went out of the city. These are two pretty intense and shocking stories, but they work together to highlight something important. You see, with this fig tree, there's a season of the year where fig trees begin to put on leaves. And when they do that, they're also putting on what's called the spring fig or the early fig. It's slightly different than a regular fig. It's very tasty, but the leaf and the early fig come on together. So when Jesus was walking by this tree, granted, it wasn't the season for figs, and yet he sees a tree that's in full leaf. A fig tree in leaf is promising food. If you could just get to that fig tree, you would have something that would provide for you. And so he went over to check it out, and there was no fruit on the branches. Here was a tree that was promising hope, but actually offered nothing. They continued on their way to the temple. Jerusalem was the place where the people meet with God. That's the presence of God. That's where God's people gather. There's hope there. Jerusalem was the place of hope. If you could just get to Jerusalem, you would be in the presence of God, and you would hear the word of God, and you would be with the people of God. Jerusalem embodied, or at least was the picture, it illustrated hope. And when he got there, he found people not seeking to glorify God or to benefit those who came. Rather, he found people who were just trying to benefit themselves. He found selfishness. Not the worship of God, but the worship of money. He didn't find a message of peace and hope. he found a message of greed and selfishness. Both the fig tree and Jerusalem were offering hope. They were promising hope and wholeness and life. And when Jesus inspected both of them, he found nothing that was fruitful. And so he cursed the fig tree and he cleansed the temple. Why is it that I bring this up here today? Brothers and sisters, we are the church of Jesus Christ. We are the temple of the living God. We are the place where God has chosen to dwell, and we are the people on which God has chosen to make his name dwell. We, Christians, the church, we're telling the world, come to us, and we will speak peace to you, and justice, and love, and wholeness, and hope. And so there's a question. Are we offering that? Are we actually giving that? When your unsaved neighbors and family members and co-workers see you, do they see somebody who embodies hope, embodies love and peace and joy? Or do we tend to be more like the flowered fig, or the leafed fig tree that had no fruit on it? My encouragement to us today is to be the people that Christ has made us to be. He has made us a fruitful people. We have his Spirit in us, and the fruit of that Spirit in us is the love and the joy and the peace of God. My encouragement to us today is to live that out passionately and zealously. Again, we have the same thought that gets in our minds every day. We're in a weird quarantine season and life doesn't look normal, but you remain the people of God. And so please be encouraged today. Don't be the fig tree. Don't be that kind of a temple. Rather, be the home of the living God, where we are a house of prayer, and we're a house of hope, and we're a house of love and joy and peace. And anyone that you interact with today, may the peace of God and the hope that God gives flow from you to everyone that you talk to today. May God be with us as we do this. And have a good day, Peaceful Valley Church. Goodbye.